the more ourselves, we have inherited from these people. It's further up now. It's the next house now, it's the one up there.
Oh, it's O'Mara's.
O'Mara's, that's what it is.
Right.
Sorry, we're just coming up to it now. That Whyte house is right within a huge enclosure there. But when these people came, there were standing stones out in the field there. They would have been from the prehistoric period. So the earlier tribal people would have either been buried out there or performing ritual in the landscape here around those standing stones. And it's all part of the long history of settlement within landscapes. That house back in there was Madden, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was.
That was a Madden house,
Just Madden, yeah.
And possibly they could trace themselves back here to Derryhiney. Now, we'll begin to see the... Oh,
Right, this is here now.
I don't think this guy was expecting to meet. You see the brown bank there? You see the red curves, right? You see the size of it?
Yeah. Are we in Derryhiney district?
Just make sure.
Tell
her to hold out for a while.
Oh no, there's no one coming there. The regular car coming there. All right, hang on there for about an hour.
See the big circular enclosure now, and the ditch is very well filled now at this stage, but you can see how strong it was. A very strong bank that probably went up another 7 or 8 feet, and then a ditch that went down sharply, so that you had to go down in a ditch. You both had the depth of the ditch and the height of the bank then, and a palisade. And you see that stone sitting above at the side of the house? That strange looking stone. That's what we call a bull-on stone. In other words, that was an erratic that was pushed in here probably 10,000 years ago when the ice movements were taking place, when we had the retreat of the great ice sheets from over Ireland, but then was later carved out with a bull in it, or a bull-on in it, that was used for ritual purposes. And we find those at early Christian sites. We find them at loads of medieval sites where they're linked to mortar and pestle hacking, crushing and grinding, but when they're on church sites, they then become holy water fonts, and they often have cures in them, in the water that collects for warts or for eyes or for different cures. So it's amazing what it takes on. Madden's father, John Madden, I think he was buried there, and his wife. But there are no 17th century grave slabs in there, sadly. Most of the grave slabs in County Galway recorded at this stage. And unless one is buried in the ground, you know, and turns up, there's nothing there that I can talk about.
When this land was settled, was it all forested?
Not, well, some of it was forested, but it should have been fairly well cleared, I think, by that time. From the prehistoric period onwards, clearances have been taking place. You know,
3000 BC.
Thereabouts to start clearing. Once you had Neolithic, once the farmers came in here in the Neolithic period, probably about 4000 BC, they would have started to clear landscapes. So they would slowly cut farms into forestry, that ring bark trees and that die off and that burn and slash and do the other things that people do in territories like that. There's a funny little thing in the garden just further down here. We're coming into a little place called Newtown.
This place here on the right, what is this?
That was a windmill. But that's on the Derryhiney Estate.
Yes.
So these, you'll just see it here, is a little circular tower. Probably that little thing there. That's a little windmill. It was, we had a lot of windmills in Ireland. And actually the interesting thing, the Irish word for mill is moilín, or willen. But the French term is moilín. So you can see it's a borrowed word from the Anglo-Norman settlers. They brought in windmills with them when they came to Ireland, and we borrowed the word and we finds its way into the Irish language. The other thing to also think about is that this is all good land. There's very little bad land in O Madden country. And what you will actually notice, or if you were here for a while you've noticed, there are a lot of big houses on this estate, in this territory. Where you have good land, you always have good land. Where you have good land, you always have settlement. Where you have good land, you have tower houses, you have Anglo-Norman presence, you have strong Gaelic chieftains, but you also have later plantation. When the English plantations took place in the settlements, it also took place in the same, because people want good land. You can rear horses on this, cattle on it, and sheep. It's good for, we have an underbelly here of limestone. Limestone is good for bone structure and that, so it's really good landscape. We're coming into Ballycrosan, the village of Ballycrosan. Kieran, you're not from Ballycrosan, are you?
No, I wouldn't say I was from there, no. From Longford.
He's from Longford. He wouldn't say that he's from Ballycrosan, and there's a reason that he wouldn't say it. This is being videoed and recorded, but it's not to go up in the public airwaves because I travelled through Ballycrosan. Some people would interpret the word Ballycrosan as the Balya, or the townland of the Chrisan, of the cross, or the crosses, or the crossroads. But one authority who is buried now in Tirnastra. He died of natural causes. They didn't take him out. But he interpreted it a different way. He interpreted the spelling Cusson. A Cusson is an Aegis. Or a that's why he's dead. So he interprets this as the village or the townland of the fools. But he's right. Cusson is an Irish idiot. An old Cusson, and you find it in the medieval text. So, you know, there can be variances. Now, we're coming into Valley Chrisan. I'll call it Chrisan. I'll go back to the crosses. I won't mention the word fool going through here, or fool bi. But what we're also coming into is we're coming into the very townland which gave its name to the barony. We're virtually in Longford. And we'll see Longford Castle down on the left here in a few minutes. We're only going to slow down. You'll see it on the left. It's a different type of tower house. It's much earlier. It dates to around 1500. It has two vaults underneath. Normally you have them stacked one over the other, but this one has two vaults beside each other. It's a very unusual architecture, if you like. But the vault is the earlier form of tower house. The other thing is that this had a 17th century house built onto it. One photograph survives, and also had a village here. There was a village here, there was a battle here, there was a lot of things happened here, there was a market here, so it was a substantial and important place. And there's one Gaelic text that survives, and I haven't got it to hand, I wish I had it for this weekend, that talks about a big banquet that was held here prior to the O Madden going into battle. And that's a very impressive thing. It talks about who was at the feast and who, you know. So that's really tribal stuff. You know, who was invited, who could be there, who could sit beside the chieftain, etc., etc. Now, the castle is in here. This is the chieftain now of Longford. This is Gibson Studdard and his wife, Elizabeth. We're heading in there now in a minute, Gibson. And Longford is actually a Viking term for where they tied up their ships, a safe harbour for ships, a lung fort, or a lung port. A lung is the Irish for ship,